Before this video even starts, I want to say I suck at this game, so don't make fun of my gameplay. And also for those of you who care, the edit isn't over the top this time. And this is a sort of for fun thing. I really like this game and wanted to make a video on it, but wasn't exactly sure what to make it about. And final thing, this video is honestly just me yapping because I really wanted to get a video out, so don't take this too seriously and hope you enjoy. Just to say it now, the sort of situation Mantis finds herself in is being a DPS support in more ways than one, with her being a support who could be a pseudo DPS and a support who does best when helping the DPS, and with her containing passive healing. This doesn't mean that she's a situational character, but there are going to be times where you might want a Mantis on your team, such as whether you have a Black Widow or maybe a Hawkeye, and that's really it. I'm gonna be honest, and most players already know this, but I feel that she's been seen in less and less matches as time passes by, in both quick play and competitive, and on both console and PC. Players just tend to opt for a different support. So that's what I'm going to try to explain today, why exactly Mantis is seen less often, and how her being a DPS support might have something to do with it. First, we gotta understand how her abilities, and especially her healing, works. Mantis' supporting abilities revolve around her life orbs. She has 4 charges, with each taking 3 seconds to recharge, or the recharge can be instant if she lands a headshot. She can spend 1 life orb to do one of 3 things: heal her allies, damage boost her allies, or damage boost herself. Whenever you spend life orb, you gain passive healing that heals 12.5 HP per second for 8 seconds, which is a total of 100 HP after the timer is finished. Using an orb within those 8 seconds just resets the timer. Healing allies has a burst heal of 55 HP and a 20 HP per second for 8 seconds. During the second life orb adds an additional 8 seconds. You max out at 16. After 8 seconds, they receive 215 health, and after 16, they receive 230. Whether it's towards herself or her allies, the damage boost is a 12% damage boost that lasts for 8 seconds. The time could be stacked up to 16 seconds for her allies, but not herself. Just like her self-healing, the timer just starts over. Her only abilities that don't cost life orbs are her Spore Slumber and her ult. Her Spore Slumber is a projectile that travels in an arc and puts her enemies to sleep. It explodes on impact with a 3 meter spherical radius, which means it's not too difficult to hit. And her enemies wake up after about 2 seconds, whether enough damage has been dealt to them, or whether a teammate on the enemy side destroys her purple clone projectile thing. And her ult is basically a 15-meter spherical radius around her that has an initial 200 HP burst heal, then 150 per second, and once you reach full health, you gain up to 100 shields. And I almost forgot to mention it, but Mantis has a second passive, which is when she has not been in combat for 3 seconds, she gets a movement boost. And all of this makes it seem that Mantis is easy to play. She does have a 1-star rating on difficulty after all. And in a way, she is easy to play. Keep your teammates' passive healing up, damage boost who you feel like would benefit from it, and don't forget to damage boost yourself. The difficulty arises when it comes to maintaining orbs. If you're in the backline trying to just constantly apply healing, then you're healing at the slowest rate you possibly can. If you use 4 of your healing orbs on 4 separate teammates and need to wait 3 seconds per charge to apply a second one to each, the third person will have their initial healing gone by the time you try to apply a second. And that's not even including your 5th teammate and applying damage boost. In order to get the most out of Mantis' life orbs, you're going to want to be in the fight and want to be hitting headshots, aka support DPS. This will allow you to get your orbs back instantly and not need to wait to expand your healing or damage boost durations. This will allow you to have your teammates have a constant 20 HP healing and additional 55 HP burst every time you extend the timer, which on paper makes her healing seem pretty good. When it comes to actually playing her, healing might feel a little lackluster because it isn't as noticeable as the healing some of your other supports provide in this game. Everyone else but one of the supports has healing that you can see go up pretty quickly, especially if you're healing teammates one at a time. With Mantis, you're applying passive healing to multiple people at the same time, so you can't exactly keep your eyes on the individual health bars. And not to mention that you're fighting another team with characters that could outdamage your 20 HP per second, which means your healing is going to probably be just enough to keep your allies alive or just make it so they take less damage. This also ties into something I want to touch upon real quick, which was Mantis can't really patty cake. While recording footage for this video, I didn't get the opportunity to do it, but I can imagine that it would be difficult to do so. You only have 4 healing orbs, which gives you a total of 220 HP burst healing before you can do a 20 HP a second, but if you try to get headshots against who's diving you, then you might be able to get more orbs to apply to the other support. And using your ult doesn't exactly count as patty cake since it's sort of a tactic that doesn't require that. Back to talking about healing allies. The moments after a fight or when someone isn't taking damage, applying a healing orb could get them back to full HP after 8 seconds, if they're not a tank, which are good for DPS who might want to keep their range, or dice who come back for a quick healing. And while you're at it, you could damage boost them to help them get that extra kick to help them secure kills, which helps my point on how she's a DPS support in the ways that she really helps benefit the DPS. Hey there, Future Babylado here. As of writing this, it's 12:30 a.m. on the Thursday before the update, and as of reading this, it's the day of the update, but I haven't gotten the chance to play her because around the time that I'm saying this part of the video, the part in which I'm editing it at, I'm a little slow. I just Want to say that Mantis' healing has been altered a bit, which doesn't exactly have a huge effect on this video, except for a point I was about to make, and possibly some numbers later on. Basically, what I was going to say was that no matter who you applied the healing orb on, you would have healed them for the same amount of health. So it puts on an illusion that you're helping the DPS more, since one orb could almost fill up their health bar, while they could only get about a third of the tank's health bar. But with the changes to our healing, things have been altered. Now tanks will be receiving between 28.75 and 33.75 HP a second, depending on who you play. And now non-tanks with 250 health, the least a character could have at the moment, will now heal for 18.75 HP a second. Those with 275 now heal 19.375 HP a second, and those with 300 will stay with 20 HP a second. Mr. Fantastic and Wolverine get slightly more now since they have over 300 HP. These changes do seem to be pretty good for tanks, but aren't exactly going to be game-changing alterations. Which goes into my next point about how you may have noticed that throughout this whole time, I haven't exactly been talking about healing your tank. That's because Mantis has a lot of trouble keeping them alive. These are going to be the players that take the most hits and damage, which means your 20 HP a second isn't going to be as useful when it comes to team fights or pushing forward. Of course, the second and maybe third healer might be there to help keep your tank alive, which means you possibly can focus more on the DPS. But this doesn't mean you shouldn't be applying constant healing to your tanks. Because Mantis can be seen as a pseudo DPS, it makes you a really good candidate for when your team is trying to have 3 supports. This makes it so your team has at least 2 people who can be dealing damage, since the other 3 roles can be filled with either 2 tanks and 1 DPS, or 1 tank and 2 DPS. Well, of course, you aren't going to be dealing as much damage as a character with the DPS role, but you do make up for it through your ability to heal and damage boost. I'll get to the point on why this helps explain why Mantis is seen less often, but first I want to look at some numbers. And those numbers are my healing output for every other support in this game, which in and of itself is pretty bad numbers to look at since I'm not exactly the best at this game. And I didn't want to just look at the average healing because I haven't actually played Adam before working on this video. So I had decided I was going to play 10 games of every support and record 2 things, the healing output in the individual matches and how long the game lasted. I also have the win rate percentage, but I didn't exactly record which game I lost and won, and I'm too lazy to go back and check. Sorry about that. Also, in the process of playing those 80 games of support, Ultron came out, which adds an additional 10 games I had to play. The games needed to meet some specific criteria before I recorded them, since I was playing in quick play, and there are many variables out of my control that would constantly change. So I decided I needed at least 1 tank on my team and only 2 supports, with me being one of them. This was so I only needed to share healing with one other person and had a tank to help boost the numbers in healing. After 3 whole weeks of playing, because I sadly have a job and people in quick play typically do whatever they want, I had played all 90 games, and this is what I ended up with. When it comes to average heals across each character's 10 games, Cloak and Dagger was the highest with 17,718, and Jeff was the lowest with 12,194. Mantis was in 6th place with 13,711. But time isn't being accounted for, which is pretty important because some games were nearly 14 minutes, while others were just a bit over 5. So I did 2 things. I got the average amount of time the games were for each character in seconds, divided 600 by these numbers, and multiplied it by the character's average heals. This combined 2 averages to get the average healing for every 10 minutes, which is the amount of time the game already uses for averages, since that's typically the length of a match. The second thing I did was pretty similar, but I did it for every individual game, aka what if every game was just 10 minutes long, which means numbers for some games were going to be decreased while others were going to be increased. Then I got the average for each character with all these new numbers and ended up with a table that looks pretty similar to the one I just made. And of course, I got the actual averages with the character statistics, which counts for every single game I've ever played with these characters. With Adam and Ultron, the numbers are pretty similar since I really only played them for this video. I have less than 20 games with each of these characters, I believe. Now, if we look at the 2 average tables with each character's 10 games, we can see that Rocky is now in last place with an average of about 14,150 per 10 minutes, and Cloak and Dagger are still in first place with an average of 20,990 per 10 minutes. Mantis is in fourth place for both tables with an average of about 15,980 per 10 games. But if we look at my actual 10-minute average that accounts for all the games that I have actually played, we see that Jeff is in last place with 13,376 heals per 10 minutes, and Luna is in first place with 18,000 heals per 10 minutes, and Cloak and Dagger are actually in 7th place with 13,690 heals per 10 minutes, but Mantis is sadly in 8th place with 13,475 per 10 minutes, despite her being my 4th most played support. The reason there seems to be pretty drastic differences with these characters' average heals is because I got Lord Cloak and Dagger back in Season 0, because it was really easy to get and that I proceeded to never touch them again. And I remember getting Lord Mantis sometime before Season 1.5 was released, and just like Cloak and Dagger, I didn't really play her again. I was sort of in a get a Lord and move on mentality, and I'm sort of still in that mentality, but still decide, you know what, I want to play this other support for this game, which goes to show that my numbers probably aren't the best to look at, especially with my average damage with Mantis being 5,468, which is pretty bad for her DPS support status, but we continue to move on. We're sadly not done with numbers yet, because we're now going to look at the Rivals Community's pick and win rate for Strategists. These numbers are as of May 23rd, 2025 on PC, so it's possible that they'll change by the time this video comes out since Ultron isn't included. I looked at the numbers for Quick Play, all the ranks combined, Bronze rank, and Celestial and above ranks. Across quick play, all ranks combined in bronze rank, Mantis was the second least played support with an average pick rate of 6.35%. In the Celestial and above ranks, she was the third least played support with a 5.12% pick rate. But looking at her win rate is a completely different story, since she has the second highest support win rate in quick play with 54.73% and the top spot in the Celestial and above ranks with a 55.05% win rate. But this doesn't mean that if there's a Mantis on your team, you guys have a coin flip chance to win the match. I just want to show the strange correlation of how she seems to be winning in games despite her not being the most picked support. I originally thought that his inclusion would have no effect on this video, that it was going to be a he's here too, I guess. But when I know that Ultron has a fairly similar class to Mantis in the fact that he's a DPS support, but he seems to be getting much harsher treatment than she is. It seems mainly due to the fact that his healing could only really target one person at a time, and whoever happens to be near the person who has the drone also gets some healing as well. But his drone doesn't have a time limit, could be passed to other people at any time, and apply a bit of shield, and even slightly more if Ultron's in the radius. And with his ultimate being able to heal and damage at the same time, it's actually decent counter to ultimates like Psylocke and even Storms, which may explain why time and time again Ultron's getting those MVP screens. He's getting heals that are on par with other supports in the match, and is dealing damage that is above supports but below DPS, in my case at least, which is pretty similar to Mantis, just minus the MVP part. Something else these two have in common is the fact that they apply passive healing that isn't really noticeable, which may make their teammates believe that they're distracted since they seem to be paying more attention to dealing damage, when in fact, Mantis is possibly trying to get headshots to get more orbs, and Ultron can't just heal bot so he helps with dealing damage, which is something really important why Mantis might not be seen that much anymore. Mantis isn't a heal bot. If we look back on the average tables, we can see on both, the average healing per 10 minutes between Mantis in 4th place and Sue Storm's 3rd place is a difference of nearly 2000 HP. And if we look at the other two in the top 3, we can see that these characters could possibly heal bot if we wanted to, which could explain how I got so much healing with them, because I was honestly just focused on healing, not gonna lie. And before you ask why I wasn't just chilling in the back or in the corner and heal botting with Rocket, I really like trying to deal some damage with him, and the games I played with him were relatively short when compared to the other games I played. But back to Mantis. With the style of playing her as a DPS support with dealing damage and helping out the DPS most, it's a way of playing some people might not be used to, especially with knowing how difficult it could be for you to keep the tank alive if you're the only present support. When some people try out or play support, they might want to focus on healing whether it's on the tank or the DPS when they're in their line of sight, and Mantis might be a bit confusing since it's sort of difficult to do that if you're not getting your headshots, which might also be a little too difficult, especially for someone like me who has shit aim, so they decide to opt for a different support. This might explain why Adam Warlock is one of the least played supports as well. He could also be seen as a DPS support who can't just heal bot, especially with a similar mechanic where crits help you get your healing back faster. So some people drop Mantis because she's a bit confusing, while others embrace her, try to learn the ways of the Leaf Blade, which could explain the correlation of her low pick rate but high win rate when compared to all the other strategies. So to sum it up, she's a DPS support who might have some confusing healing that might not seem to be the best when you're in game, but on paper it does really well. You can't exactly sit back and heal bot since you need to be in the fray to get the most out of your orbs, which might not be some support players' preferred playstyle, so they play someone else. The difficulty to keep the tank alive on your own might seem a bit scary to some people, and having to constantly go for headshots might be a bit too difficult for some people, aka me. If you were to take anything away from the video, please give Mantis a try. She's pretty fun and does really well in the 3 support strat. And if it's a quick play and your teammate is telling you to hop off Mantis, always remember that you can meet other players. Hey there, this is Future Babble. I just want to say that this is like a day after recording all the audio for this video. I just want to say that I'm incredibly sorry for the bad mic quality. I use a headset mic to record these videos and just realized that there are moments when the mic is cutting in and out, so hopefully I fixed it up um somehow because I'm too lazy to go back and read it. And also wanted to mention how last night, which would have been June 24th, I was playing some Mantis following what I mentioned in this video. I want to say, yeah, just playing her and focusing on damage. Well, trying to focus on damage. I suck at this game, so I can't really aim. But, just focusing on getting your headshots, maintaining your orbs, helping damage the DPS, it really does help go a long way with Mantis. It really makes it feel like, yeah, this is a support character, not exactly a healer. Someone who's supposed to be helping out the team in both boosting and doing damage. And what else do I want to mention? Oh yeah, the mention of being quote unquote in the fray. That doesn't exactly mean that you gotta be like, oh, up front trying to aim for your headshots. Much more like you might like the furthest forward you want to go is standing next to the DPS to help try to land your shots, and maybe like standing behind the DPS and in front of the supports. Or maybe if like your whole group is together and maybe you could like hide behind someone so you aren't getting shot at because you're a little squishy compared to some of the other characters. And that's really about it that I wanted to mention before ending things off. Um yeah, I gotta go edit this. I really wanna get this out. Bye. But bye from me from future Babalotto, not the video ending because I gotta do my little outro. Well, no. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe for more inconsistent topics and upload dates. And that's about it. Okay, bye now.